nyim banku tumal mu beto na doku sone yata atariata akoita andung alanna yata Gambia banko kan Supersonics le dinkiral siyata katambi nyin tumal mu meti Supersonics be banku tan sabani nani le to fata findu bankol to dung ila Google Play Store to wala ila Apple app sign ye Supersonics la money transfer app o download pour que ifa munafang na service olla.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second monthly press conference of the Citizens Alliance. Before we commence our proceedings this morning, can we please have prayers? We can do prayers silently in our individual ways, please. May God answer all our prayers and direct the proceedings. Amen. Good morning and welcome once again. We're here on our second monthly press conference. As promised the last time, we're going to be engaging with the press, with the nation, with Gambians on a monthly basis to talk about issues that are really important to our country, to our people. Currently, we know there have been several happenings. And as a party, as the party, as Citizens Alliance, a government in waiting, it is important that we come and discuss these issues, make our positions clear, talk to the people, enlighten them, educate them, highlight the issues, and also put on the table solutions on how to tackle these issues. We're a government in waiting. There is a current government. There is a role of government, and there is a role that citizens need to play, as well as political parties. We are a party that's not here to compete. We're a party that's not here to criticize, but we're a party that is here to hold ourselves to account, hold the current government to account, because we are the futuristic party. We are not an opposition, we are the alternative. As such, we have highlighted some issues that we feel are important that we need to discuss and get the Gambians informed. One of them is the issue of the postponement of the voter registration. We're in 2021. Elections are fast approaching in December. These are key things that will inform everything that will happen in December 2021. So thus, I think it is very, very important that we discuss the issue as a party. Also, the appointment of the deputy IEC chairman, which was later rescinded, but still it's important that we talk to the populace, we talk to the Gambians on how we felt about that appointment as well. We will also discuss the current drug bust at the Gambia ports. It's a concern. It is a big issue that as a party, we should really talk to the people about it. We will also talk about the directive that was issued by the IGP on tinted glasses. It is a big concern. As citizens, we felt, because a lot of people have really commented on that issue, and as a party also, we feel our supporters are affected, Gambians are affected, the populace is affected. We should really discuss such an important issue. We will talk about the alarming increase of road accidents, and that will boil down to driving license issuance as well. Because again, it's end of year. Everybody is going to be renewing their driver's driving license, it is an issue that we will want to also discuss. And we will discuss the high maternal mortality as well. It is an ongoing issue, an ongoing concern. It is important that we keep talking about it, not once, not twice, until we see to it that the issue is addressed. If not completely eradicated, but at least reduced to a number that we are comfortable with. Without further ado, I would invite the party leader, presidential candidate, flag bearer of the Citizens Alliance, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, to delve on these issues and tell you the party's positions, our take, and the way forward. Thank you very much, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Spokeswoman, for that very good and comprehensive introduction. Good morning, members of the press present here today, and even those who are not present here today, but covering this event from afar. Good morning, Gambia. Every Gambian, friends of the Gambia, residents of the Gambia, good morning. Gambians living in the Gambia and Gambians living in the diaspora. We extend our warmest greetings to you. We wish everybody a happy new year. It's 2021. We pray and hope that 2021 will be a good year for the Gambia and her citizens, better than 2020. I also like to acknowledge the presence of a few executive members from the National Executive Council of the Citizens Alliance. I have on my right Mr. Dominic Mendy, the National President of the Citizens Alliance. Obviously, I don't have to introduce our spokeswoman. She's been very active, very innovative as well, doing a fantastic job for the party. I've seen recently that she made a tour of the different media houses just to build that rapport, that relationship between Citizens Alliance and the press, to demystify our party, to show that we are open as a party and that we are willing to talk to the press. When we talk to the press, we don't talk to you. If you are not a journalist, I wouldn't talk to you, but because you are a journalist and you have a role to play, what you do is you disseminate information to the general public. So when we talk to you, we are talking to the general public. If we had the power, we would visit every city, every town, every village, every bantaba in this country to talk to the citizens. But because we cannot do that, the best way to do it now and the most effective and efficient way is to talk to you. And now you can later on, through your TVs, through your radios, through your platform, disseminate this information to the general public. So our desire to talk to the public, to be transparent to the public as a political party is what makes us having this, to organize this press conference, Monday, talk to you so we can share information. We have our disability president, Mr. Yusufa Haidara, who's sitting on the left. And finally, we have Mr. Rafi Diab, the party's national mobilizer. Like Nene said, since the last press conference, we had promised the Gambian people, through you, that we'll be organizing a monthly press conference where we'll discuss pertinent national issues and state our position on some issues. But on some issues, we prefer solutions. The country is grappling with complex problems. Some are perennial. Some problems have existed since independence. But some are new problems. But that is what happens to countries. They grapple with problems, they solve it, problems come, they solve it. These problems can be political, could be social, could be economic. And I think our role as a party is to find solutions to these political problems, to these social problems, and to these economic problems. Like Nene Riley said, we don't see ourselves as the opposition. We see ourselves as the alternative party. What alternative solutions and policy solutions do we have for the country? That is why we're organizing this press conference today. The first issue has to do with the postponement of voter registration. We all know that voter registration is a very important national project. According to the Gambian law, it happens every 10 years. The last voter registration was in 2011. We are supposed to have one this year, but this one is not any ordinary voter registration. It is to register Gambians, some who are already in the voter roll, but more so new voters as well. Since 2011, Gambia's population has increased exponentially. And because of the baby boom in the 90s, we have a lot of young people now who are eligible to vote in the 2021 elections. In addition to that, the next elections is going to be a very high-stakes election within a very fragile and unpredictable context. So therefore, it was important that we get the voter registration right, because if we don't get it right, it can undermine the integrity of the elections, which would not be a very good thing for the Gambia. So therefore, we take the postponement very seriously. If you could recall, when we received a letter from the IEC that it was postponed indefinitely due to logistical challenges, we came out to challenge the IEC on two things: that they should tell us what these logistical challenges are, because we believe that we as principal stakeholders in this whole entire process should know any challenge that the IEC is facing with regards to the elections. Two, we say it is not enough for you to tell us indefinitely. We need a clear and realistic timetable to replace the previous one. We commend the IEC, obviously, for coming out to shed light as to why the postponement took place. We'll discuss that. But they fall short of telling us the next realistic registration date. I will also discuss that. So, with also in our communication when we got the letter was that we are also going to do our own investigations to know exactly what transpired and why it was postponed. And the findings that we have, based on our investigations, are that the IEC wanted to single source the procurement process, the procurement for the materials needed for the elections. The IEC, as usual, 2011 and 2016, they did single sourcing to one company. And in 2021, they also want to do the same single sourcing, but the Ministry of Finance said no, it has to go through a tender process so we can give chance to other companies who have the capacity and the capability to also provide this material, so that's a fair process. And then a bidding process started, tender process. 4 companies tendered their bids. One is ESI, a Canadian company. The second is Damalog from Germany. We have Ekemp from China. All these are international companies. And we have one Gambian-owned company called Smart Business Group, the Gambia. However, the first issue with regards to this whole scenario was that the IEC did not want or would not allow a joint venture. What does that mean? It means that a Gambian company who lacks the reference and the capacity to provide these materials would want to partner with a foreign company who has the experience and the capacity and the reference. But the IEC says no, no joint venture. It is either you come full and provide or you don't. So it means technically Gambian companies were removed from the entire process. However, one Gambian company, Smart Group, nonetheless, because they had already bought the documents, they tendered their bid. Now, the second thing was that the company the IEC wanted to give the contractor, which is ESI. Based on our findings, we need some clarifications from the IEC and also from GPPA. Because, I mean, if these things should be clear. We understand, we are not saying that is the case, but we understand that ESI was not the most qualified company. In fact, they are not the most financially responsive of all the companies that bidded. Third, that this same ESI was the same company that supplied IEC election materials in 2011 and 16 under a different company name called Code. And they went bankrupt, and they changed their name to ESI. That should be very clear. They supplied the materials for elections in 2011 and 16. Single source, their name was Code, went bankrupt, and now they are called ESI. Now, based on our findings also, IEC had a very bad experience with this company called Code. So the question is, why would we want to deal with the same company? Now, the fourth also is that we want to also know what materials is the IEC going to procure. Because if the IEC bought materials for 2011 and 16, there should be materials available for 20, except if those materials will have poor quality and we're going to discard them. But we need to know also there should be clarity as to what materials are we going to get. Because if they supplied materials in 2016, we should be able to use those materials as well. Now, those are the issues that we want to know. Now, what we've learned also is that because of this agreement between the procurement agency and IEC, now they are going to go for a second tender. They are going to remove the clause which is that joint ventures are not accepted. Now they are going to accept it. It means now government businesses can partner with other businesses to do it. So there will be a new tender. The four that tendered before are going to be the same ones now. So I think we are waiting now for the outcome of that entire process and see which company will really win the tender. But what is important for us as a party and also as citizens is that elections are no jokes. They are life and death issues. They are about democracy. They are about security and peace and stability. Therefore, we must get it right. And our position is very clear that we urge the IEC to make sure that whatever they do it right and they look at the greater interest of the nation and make sure that the company that wins it has the capacity, is going to be objective, and is going to be engaged in any activity that will resemble voter fraud. So that is our position on that issue. So we are waiting to see which company is going to win the bid. And also we urge the IEC to come up with a new timetable as soon as possible. So we know this state of unpredictability hampers our work as political parties because we have to plan ahead. We need to know when is voter registration so we can plan. We have a lot of activities to do. But if you don't know when voter registration is, which itself is a lot of work to get the citizens to register to vote. Because we want every Gambian who is eligible to vote to register to vote. That's what we want. That is our aim. That every Gambian who is eligible to register to vote must register to vote. We don't want to disenfranchise any Gambian, both in the Gambia and in the diaspora. So therefore, it is important that as soon as possible, this issue is sorted, and then we have a new timetable and voter registration starts. Another issue that we have with voter registration is the window that is provided. Initially, the IEC said the window was from the 14th of January to the 26th of February, which is 6 weeks. We think it is too small a window for a very important exercise like this. We are going to register almost over 1 million people within 6 weeks. Knowing how our country is in terms of infrastructure, in terms of connectivity, and in terms of getting access to documents you need to register to vote. Getting an ID card can take ages. Many Gambians cannot even afford ID cards, especially the young people. And we like to wait until last minute. So you wait until registration starts, you're going to look for an ID card before you get a registration window has closed, you cannot register to vote. The system really disenfranchises you, and we don't think that should happen in this country. The second one is a passport. How many Gambians can afford a passport, especially those who know they will never travel? Birth certificate, we've all lost our birth certificates. Alcalo's attestation, and this thing can be politicized. You can go to an Alcalo and say, no, you are from a different political party than the party I support. I'll not give it to you. So these things must be very clear. We don't want to disenfranchise any Gambian. And when we disenfranchise, and when the system does that, it can cause problems for us. So we want the IEC to take note of these things. The second issue that we want to discuss is the recent drugs busted at the Gambia Ports Authority. Inside a container, obviously. The container was, in the laden, was supposed to carry industrial salt from, I think, from Brazil, from South America somewhere. However, the amount of drugs confiscated was 2.93 tons, that's kilograms, almost close to 3 tons. We say 2, but it's close to 3 tons of cocaine. I think it's the biggest in the history of this country. First of all, we like to commend the law enforcement agencies. We like to commend Interpol, plus DLIC, our own law enforcement agencies, for the collaboration in making sure that this this activity is busted. One thing that we should note is that the Gambia now has become an access, storage, and transit point for drugs like cocaine. Not only Gambia, it's a West African problem. Senegal is facing the same problems, Guinea-Bissau, Mali. We're all facing the same problems. But for the Gambia, as small as it is, for us to be having this amount of drugs in our country is a serious cause for concern and has serious implications for the security of this country. Having tons of cocaine stored in the Gambia, waiting to be transited to its final destination, can attract criminal gangs into this country. It is also not good for the country because what it does is it wanes investor confidence. A country known to be a drug hub, serious investors want to go to those countries because those countries are unstable. Those countries are always unstable. The other thing also has to do with security. Like I said, and finally, our citizens are not safe because these drugs, like I tell you, are not to be consumed. Gambians cannot consume 3 tons of cocaine. We don't have the market in the country. So Gambia has now become a storage point because they cannot grow it here, but now it is going to be stored here. Now when it is stored here, it means it has to go somewhere. Who takes it there? They are going to rely on our young people who need money. Especially those in the diaspora who have the European passports and can travel, they'll use them to transport these drugs, and our young innocent people who are here frustrated with no job. So it is a very serious problem that we must take very seriously. And we, on our part, we urge the government to strongly empower the law enforcement agencies, especially the DLIC. They must be empowered because why? They need the necessary equipment and the technology to be able to trace, track, arrest, and prosecute these people who are involved in this kind of activities. Especially training. See, this drug world is very dynamic. We need to train our law enforcement agencies how to work within a very sophisticated intelligence world to be able to track and trace and arrest these criminals. So we need to invest in law enforcement in this country because of this. That's what countries do. Whenever you have a problem in one particular sector, you invest to solve that problem. We need to invest in law enforcement. We need to invest in law enforcement to ensure that our law enforcement agencies have the right materials and the right equipment to do their work, right training to do their work, but also are independent. Let government not interfere with their work. Let them independently do their investigations and do their work. Now, on a final note on this issue, because this is a transnational organized crime. It's a transnational organized crime. What does that mean? It means that transnational collaboration is needed to deal with this situation. What does that mean? We urge the government to support our law enforcement to promote more interagency collaboration, especially within the West African sub-region, in terms of intelligence sharing and information sharing. I know there is a software that they are developing now. It's called WAPIS, West African Police Information System. They are developing it. It makes it easier for West African intelligence agencies to collaborate and share information real time. It's under development, it's not done yet. I think the Gambia should ensure we should be part of this WAPIS because it makes the work of our law enforcement agencies very easy. Our position is very clear. We urge strongly the government to really investigate this drugs issue and make sure the perpetrators are brought to justice and set a very good example. Because if we don't set good examples and let people go scot-free, that causes impunity. The transnational criminal gangs, you know now, Gambia has weak institutions. There are weak security institutions. It becomes a very easy target. That is what they are looking for. They are looking for countries with weak institutions. Look at the countries they target: Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Gambia. They know. They don't go to countries with strong institutions, with strong security infrastructure. They don't. They know this country is vulnerable. It's easy to buy your way in and out. These are the countries they target. In the process, they destroy our countries. The third issue that we also want to discuss is the directive from the IGP about the tinted glasses. When I read the press release, I thought this is ridiculous. The IGP obviously urged the public that effective tomorrow, all vehicles with tints must renew their clearance permits. That they have reviewed the issuance of tinted glass clearance for vehicles, and because of that, vehicle owners must renew. And let me quote from the release that review process came following a thorough and strict consideration of national security interests. Just listen to these words and underline them. They did a review because of national security interest. To cite but a few instances, they have registered cases in which tinted vehicles were used to traffic drugs, one, and other contrabands across the country. In other instances, individuals use it as a cover-up to evade security inspections and non-compliance with relevant vehicle tax settlements. In addition to a host of issues, they sometimes pose a challenge in the investigation of hit-and-run accident cases. This is what the IGP released. That in view of the above and other security-related issues, the IGP's office hereby notifies the public that effective tomorrow, 15 January 2021, all vehicles with tints must renew their clearance permit. But this renewal has a cost. What is that cost? That factory tinted vehicles, what does that mean? Vehicles that are tinted from production, from the manufacturer, you have to pay $10,000 to GRA. Now, non-factory, where you go to Kairaba Avenue and you tell these guys to fix you your tint, that one you pay $15,000. The height of this whole folly is when they say senior government officials, diplomats, and others, who are those others we don't know, will be allowed gratis. You don't pay. So diplomat, government official, tint, dark, the darkest tint, 100% free. Commercial vehicles banned from tint. Now, my question is, if really national security is the issue here, why say pay $10,000? Criminals can afford $10,000. I mean, if I'm a criminal and I do my dealings in my car and have a tinted glass and government says now $10,000, I can easily afford that. So for me, national security is not the reason then if it has a cost of $10,000. So that doesn't make sense to us. Now, one thing that the IGP or the police should know and the general public is that most modern vehicles have a slight tint to their windows. These come, especially those vehicles made 2015 and later, they have tints. So why should I buy my car and be punished for that? That is the question that we should ask. Why should citizens be punished for buying a car from the factory and are made to pay $10,000? That's a lot of money for an average Gambian. It's a lot of money. But why do these vehicles have tints? They don't just put tint because it makes the car beautiful. No, there are reasons. One of the reasons is that it reduces the amount of infrared, visible light, and ultraviolet radiation that passes through windows of a vehicle. That is why they put it there. It is for the health and comfort of the driver and the passengers, because it reduces the sun rays that come in, especially dangerous ultraviolet sun rays. It can also create a better driving environment because what it protects the passengers and the driver from the glare of the sun. and lowers regular glass. It also makes your car temperature cooler, especially in hot countries like Gambia. These are advantages, because these advantages make the driving experience better. However, we also understand that tinted glass use must be regulated. We are not saying it must not be regulated. It must be regulated. But it must be done in a way that makes sense. I'm not telling us that people smuggle drugs in cars, people smuggle contraband, so because of that, you pay $10,000 to smuggle it. That is, in fact, that's what they're telling us. You can smuggle, continue smuggling, but just pay $10,000, you can continue smuggling. That is what they're telling us. Now, it is important that we regulate it. Why? Because it reduces, tinted glass reduces visibility, especially heavy tint. It reduces visibility for the driver. It can cause accidents, especially at night. It's like wearing a very dark glasses and you are driving at night. With a country that has barely lights everywhere, street lights. You tint all your car, you are driving at night, it causes accidents. So therefore, we think it must be regulated, because it's about road safety as well. Secondly, law enforcement agents must be also able to see inside the interior of a vehicle. And heavy tint can impede that process. So what needs to be done? We need to strike a balance between driver experience and comfort and security. We are not saying that they should allow tint indiscriminately, but there must be guidelines. Best practices are available all over the world. If you go to other countries, that is what they do. In terms of visible light transmission levels. Light tint. You see, tint is measured based on visible light, based on some countries. Some countries say, well, there must be 70% VLT. That is 70% visible light transmission, meaning that 70% of the sun must be able to, light must be able to enter the vehicle. Only 30% is tinted. Some countries say no, 50. Some countries say no, 30. So each country has their own guidelines that they give to motorists. For example, in India, total tint is banned. You cannot do total tint. However, if it comes from a manufacturer, it can be 30% tinted. So 70% is VLT, meaning vision light transmission. Light can enter 70% in the front and the rear windows, and 50% tinted on the side windows. In Tunisia, tints are allowed, but should not be so heavily tinted that it is not possible to see inside the car. So Gambia should come with their own guidelines based on these technicalities, and not just to say IGP directive next week, if you have a tint, $10,000. In fact, we want to know the legal basis of these directives, because otherwise, if they impound a citizen's car, you can take the IGP to court to say, what is the legal basis of the directives? Where the $10,000 is from? I know it's the Motor Traffic Act of 25, Section 25C is one that governs it, but where did they get the money? Why 10,000 and not 5,000? What is the legal basis of this? So we need to know these things, and it needs to be clear. What we are urging the IEC, the police, is that they are doing a fantastic job to get our community secure and safe. However, these random directives are not what moves a country. There must be clear guidelines that takes into consideration driver comfort and experience, but at the same time security. So what we are telling them is that the directive is counterproductive, because if security is the sole reason why you want to regulate tinted glass, then ban it. But don't say pay 10,000 and use it. That doesn't make sense. It's counterproductive. So we want them to revisit this directive and come up with clear guidelines as to what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. The fourth position has to do with the increase in road traffic accidents. Even though there is very little empirical evidence to give us exactly what is happening, because data collection in this country is not very good. But anecdotal evidence tells us that every day you drive your car from turntable to traffic light, you'll see an accident. On the Kiang Road, you'll see an accident. On the Gunju Road, you'll see an accident. These are social problems that must be solved. We cannot just say accident happen now. the people have died or injured. No, that's no. We need to know exactly what causes these accidents. There must be empirical evidence to guide government policy. Citizen safety is key, is important. I was reading a report recently written by the American government about road safety in the Gambia. I mean, if you see the language they use in describing our drivers, you'll want to cry. They say Gambian drivers are reckless, unpredictable, untrained. These are the three words they use. Reckless, unpredictable, untrained. That is the American government's view of Gambian drivers, warning their citizens to know that if you join a Gambian taxi vehicle, that driver is untrained, is unpredictable, and is reckless. Now, many reasons can cause traffic accidents, but until a study is done to ascertain exactly why, is it because of structural problems or procedural problems? Is it because of the road infrastructure that is bad? Is it because there's an increase in driving under the influence, and our police don't have the capacity to test drivers? In Gambia, clubs are open until 5 and 6 a.m. People drink in the clubs and get drunk and drive to go home. Nobody holds them to account, killing people on their way. Our police must be equipped to deal with these issues. They must have the right material, the right tools to make sure our roads are safe. But most important is the manner in which we issue driver's license in this country. It doesn't make sense. How can you give somebody a driver's license in October and you say it will expire 31st December? If you take it in January, it will expire 31st December. If you take it on the 15th of December, it will expire 31st. What does that do? It forces people not to take it. Today, as we speak, many drivers in this country don't have a valid driver's license because it expired on the 31st. And they give you 3 months until March. So between December and March, many drivers drive without a driver's license in this country. It doesn't make sense. We must reform that part. We must go back and look at it and do it pro rata. If you get your license in June, if it is 1 year, it expires in June. If it is 3 years, it expires 3 years later in June. Doesn't make sense. That's why if you want to start driving in October, you don't get a license. You say, let me wait until December. People drive without license in this country. But for me, in fact, the whole driver license issuance regime must be revisited. I don't think the police is the right authority to issue driver's license. They should implement. There must be a road authority, a vehicle and driver authority, a special institution. That is best practice. That institution's sole purpose is to issue driver's license, to make sure our roads are safe, to deal with road signage, to make sure that anybody who gets a driver's license should go through certified training schools. Because it's about people's lives. But in the Gambia, anybody can get a driver's license. People can just buy a car today, never drove a car before, just go inside, they can start driving. Putting lives at risk. So we need to revisit this and make sure that the amount of accidents happening in this country is too much. And the folly of it is that why do they have to give our driving license issuance to SEMLEX? Government is not getting anything from it. 60-40. Government is getting only 40. Every $1,000 SEMLEX, maybe we get only 400. Don't you think that we have the capacity to make our own driver's licenses? So the whole thing is just, it doesn't make sense. So that is for the driver's license issue. When it comes to the final one, has maternal mortality. There's a lot of reports recently that women are dying in hospitals whilst giving birth. That should not happen. In fact, to show us that the government is not serious in dealing with this situation, there's no proper data to tell us exactly what is happening. You see, you cannot solve a problem if you don't know what is happening. The latest survey, which was done in 2013, tells us something different. There is no recent survey. The last one was 2013, that 449, I think 450 or something women per 1,000 die while giving childbirth. That is too high. So there is no recent empirical data. And you need regular updates of maternal mortality. You need estimates to know exactly what is happening so you can be able to prioritize maternal health care. Otherwise, you cannot do it. And unfortunately, Gambia is ranking among the countries with high maternal mortality ratio. And I think the government should do a lot of work to reduce this ratio. Even though I had the Gambia's minister speaking the last time at the parliament, giving us not figures that don't make sense. He said in 2014, 208 deaths per 100,000 women. In 2015, it rose to 250. In 2016, it declined to 195. And in 2017, it rose again to 236. The rise continued in 2018 to 283 deaths. And as we speak, the figure, when he was speaking in September last year, it was 169 up to September last year. We don't know today exactly what is happening. And we think that we need proper statistics. But currently there are the weakness of the healthcare sector doesn't give us proper statistics because money is not invested into research in this country. And money must be invested because research is important. It gives us the data we need to solve our problems. Some of the problems that the health sector is facing also is physical infrastructure is gone. There are no supplies of equipment in our hospitals. Shortage of adequately and appropriately trained staff. The human resource factor is key. We think the government should invest in training of medical staff in this country. High attrition rates because they are not motivated. When they see greener pastures, they leave. And also, inadequate referral system. The main referral hospital, I think, is in Banjul. If you live in North Bank and they refer you to Banjul and you miss the ferry, you are almost gone. If you live in Nyomi and you have a life-threatening illness and you need immediate attention, immediately you arrive, Bara, the ferry is going, and there's only one ferry running. Just do your last prayers and wait for God to come. That is the real Haryala. The Haryala is not in the hospital. You see, that's the real Haryala. Talk about Haryala, right? Because you don't know when the next ferry is coming to save you. So we want government to do a comprehensive study so we can understand the causes of maternal mortality in this country as soon as possible, to equip our healthcare facilities with the required maternal and human resources for provision, appropriate, adequate, and comprehensive obstetric care for safe childbirth for all women. And this is a problem. The statistics are here. And I thank Dija for doing a fantastic job and doing a very good research on this issue. And the statistics I'm about to read, I got it from her article. She said that a large majority of Gambian women, that is 86.2%, receive antenatal care from a skilled health professional. That is, before you go to give birth, most women get the care they need, but the problem is where they are giving birth. Only 57.2% of all deliveries are conducted by a skilled health professional. It means that the majority of Gambian women, when they are giving birth, it's not a skilled professional who is helping them to give birth. And that is a problem. What does that mean? It means government must invest more in ensuring we have more skilled professionals, that especially midwives. This is the importance of data. To know exactly what are the weaknesses, what are the gaps, and you solve it. But unfortunately, we are not thinking along that direction. So these are the issues that we have, and I'd like to thank you. Like I said, this press conference is for you. It's for us to be as transparent as possible, for you to tell us exactly the questions you have for us, and we'll answer them in any language, both Mandinka, Wolof, Fula, Jola, Manjago, Sarahule, and any language.